Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the Rasikananda podcast. This is a daily spiritual video podcast. From whatever background you are, we welcome you. We are not here to seek to convince or convert you to anything. We're here just to share stories from our path of Bhakti Yoga, the path of awakening divine love in relation with Sri Radha and Sri Krishna, the divine supreme couple. This is Radha and Krishna. My great-grandfather Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, said, any conception of the Godhead that does not include the divine feminine is incomplete, impotent, impersonal, Un-GodHead. He didn't use exactly that word, but he basically said it's not God. Any conception of the absolute truth that does not include the divine feminine or Shakti principle is not the complete understanding of the Godhead. So therefore we worship Sri Radha and Sri Krishna. In our Eastern traditions, there are many who worship Sita and Ram, Lakshmi Narayan. Yet, the emphasis still remains generally focused on the masculine half of God, which is the object of our ultimate devotion and love. But it's still, if we do not appreciate and develop that sense of balanced spirituality and understand the two halves of the absolute truth, then our spiritual development will remain stunted in its growth. We risk having some different kinds of ideas and conceptions and practices and that hamper our progress. So we are specifically in this path of Bhakti Yoga, Braj Bhakti, we are endeavoring to awaken our relationship in a beautiful way where we can experience transcendental engagement in Leela, which means the divine pastimes of Radha Krishna in their eternal realm of Vrindavan. This is something that is the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to this world, which is to understand that God is not just an idea, a concept far and above beyond us, or that we can go to some realm and worship from a distance. God is someone who can be your intimate friend, even your lover. It's very cosmic, right? To think, the audacity, right? The audacity to think you can just be buddies with God. Or his girlfriend. But this is not some sentimental philosophy. This is based in the deepest imports of the Vedic tradition. This is an authorized path. But without someone very powerful to bestow this, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it would not be understood or seen, and everyone would simply follow the general path of religiosity, leading to fulfillment of one's desires and economic development or ultimately liberation, but dry. You say, what are you going to do after liberation? They say, I don't know. What is there after liberation? I don't know. Maybe I'll just be God. Okay, well, what does that mean? What are you going to do? Like, people say, I am God. Okay, so like, how's that working out for you? Well, I don't know. I think it's going to work out good once everyone else understands that. Right? I am God. How's it working out for you? Well, the problem is not everyone agrees with me. And what to speak of agreeing with me, they don't properly honor me according to my position as the Supreme God, lost in the dream. But when I wake up, see the alarm. When I wake up, I'll realize I'm God. But they don't understand, what does that even mean? It's just a vague concept. Most spirituality in the world today is just vague generalizations. I am everything. and you are me. And we should enjoy as much as humanly possible. And everything in the world is meant for our enjoyment because we are gods and goddesses. So our path is very defined, that we can actually become an associate of Krishna and have a sweet relationships in his pastimes. Generally, people think of God as someone you worship, or God as someone you bow down before, and this is there. But ultimately, our Gurudev taught us to transcend this concept of even God as God. And in that realm of Vrindavan, no one thinks of him as God. His own parents don't think of him as God. Sometimes when he appeared on this earth, the cowherd men, one time they came to Nanda Baba, Krishna's father, and said, I think you should show more respect to your son. We have a feeling that he just might be the god Narayan. And Nanda Baba began to laugh. There's an area where when we go on pilgrimage to these areas, and it's the area where they sat together and they laughed for so long that at the end of their laughter, they forgot why they started. And they just laughed and laughed and laughed. After about half an hour, someone said, like, what are we laughing about? And they all started laughing again. So for them, this concept that Krishna is God is laughable. Nanda Baba said, when there's a thunderstorm, he comes and jumps in bed with us and cries, save me, save me. How can that be God? Right? Madhya Yashoda, sometimes the other ladies will say, oh, he's God, you should not twist his ear. He said, even if he is God, I am his mom, and I have to twist his ear and box his cheeks and tell him. Otherwise, he'll grow up to be naughty. If you were to tell Radharani and her friends that Krishna is God, sometimes Krishna tries to say this actually. He says, don't you know? I was Lord Ram at one point. I built a bridge over the ocean. I said, prove it. And so he called all his monkey friends. Krishna has a lot of monkey friends. They say, look at your nature. All your friends are like monkeys. Right? Even in Ram Leela, Ram didn't build the bridge. The monkeys built the bridge. How is that some speciality of Ram? This is the speciality of the Vanaras, the monkeys. Krishna called all the forest monkeys and he said, okay, let's show the gopis, Radha and all the gopis, how we are so powerful. And they built a bridge across the lake. The gopis said, this is useless. You and your nonsense monkeys and your tricks. I don't care. Whatever you say, anyhow, you're always causing mischief, and don't disturb us. One time, Krishna was trying to tax the gopis, and he made a blockade with his friends, the cowherd boys. There was a narrow passageway that the gopis would go through to take their yogurt, their milk, their ghee, their butter, and various preparations, and go and take them from one village to another or to the marketplace. And so Krishna blocked the passageway and he said, you must give us tax. He said, tax? He said, don't you know I am the prince, the king of Vrindavan? My father is Nandishwar, Nanda Maharaj. I am the son of Nanda Maharaj. He's the king. King? Radharani said, my father has 2 lakhs more cows than your father. We have 1,100,000 cows. You only have 900,000 cows. And anyhow, where's your title? Where's your deed that you own Vrindavan and you can demand tax from us? This is not proper. He said, I don't care what you say. Might equals right. Here I am with all my hundreds of friends with sticks. If you want to pass through, you must give us tax. He argued many ways. He said, they said, we're the ones who take care of Vrindavan. Krishna said, no, I'm bringing my cows, I'm herding the cows. He said, you take your cows and you trample our gardens and you trample the flowers and the vegetables. And we have to, you never ever watered a plant. You've never taken care of any plant. What right do you have to say you're the king of Vrindavan? He said, anyhow, you must give. And then they said, no, don't you know? There's one gopi, her name is Brinda. She's like the forest goddess of Vrindavan. They said, Vrindavan is named after Brinda. Vrindavan is her property. So Krishna said, Vrinda, she is my wife. They said, wife? If she is your wife, you have to agree, right? The wife has to consent to marriage, right? So he said, let's call Vrinda. And so Vrinda came, and Krishna looked at her and smiled. Thought his charms would work. And she said, my husband? That black boy? No good family would ever marry their daughter to that sham, blackish boy. Heart is black. Very crooked. We don't want anything to do with him. So Krishna's thinking, what can I do now? He said, anyhow, you have to give tax. So then they all one by one gave some sweets, gave some butter to all Krishna's friends, and they were thinking, nah, we're victorious. He became very puffed up after that incident. And for days, he would go around with all his friends bragging about how he had taxed the gopis. He became so puffed up, let's say, what pride comes before the fall. So he became very proud. And he would go around with his 4 or 5 friends thinking that he owned the place. And one time, the gopis ambushed him. They all hid in the trees and behind the rocks. And as Krishna was going through that area, similar area, they all ambushed him, caught all the boys and tied their sikas, which is like their ponytail, to the trees and boxed their cheeks. And they dressed Krishna up as a gopi, the gopi skirt, the blouse, and they some big kadamba flowers in the blouse. And they gave him a pot and said, hold it or else. And then from 10, 15 feet away, Lalita Devi, Radharani's best friend, threw a big rock and broke the pot. And then a huge pot of like 30, 40 liters of yogurt fell all upon Krishna's body. And he got, this is called Abhishek, royal bath. Krishna was so happy. Why? This is more sweet than just being God that everyone worships. Sometimes Krishna wrestles with his friends, and his friends defeat him. Sridham, Sudam. And in the wrestling match, they pin each other down, and whoever's pinned down loses. But Krishna will say, no, my nose is up, I have won. They'll say, no, you're down, we have won. And now you have to carry us on your shoulders. And so Krishna will carry one of the cowherd boys on his shoulders. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a book about the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's described that this is called service. Anything that pleases the beloved, that is service. So the cowherd boys, when they wrestle with Krishna and defeat him, and he has to carry them on his shoulders, that is their performance of service. As a soul, jiva, or associate of Krishna, anything that they're doing in their interaction of love, that's called lila, pastime. And to please the beloved is service. So this is called service. So if you were to worship God in a way filled with opulence and awe and reverence, you would never even conceive of the idea, okay, I'm going to wrestle him. And if I win, he's going to carry me on his shoulders. Right? Wrestling with God. So people would say this is a very strange concept. Therefore, Krishna is not God. Krishna is beyond God. Krishna is God after his retirement. Right? He is only playing in the forest of Vrindavan. It's described that he is like an intoxicated mad elephant cub. That's Krishna. Imagine, intoxicated by the love of all of his associates, and he is roaming around Vrindavan with not a care in the world. That's why he's described to be a prince, not a king. A young prince. An elderly prince has responsibilities. Young prince, his only responsibility is to love and to play and to experience happiness. So that is Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure. The gopis of Vrindavan, how is their service? To dance with Krishna, that is their service. Right? And when they're dancing and beads of perspiration are forming on their foreheads, Krishna will take his pitambar, which is his yellowish shawl, and he'll wipe the perspiration from their foreheads. So by doing this, they are performing seva, service. Why? Anything that gives pleasure to the beloved, that is service. So this approach of God consciousness is very sweet and very beautiful. This is what is offered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this line. We especially focus on the mood of friendship with Krishna, like his friends, the mood of parental affection, like his mothers and fathers, and the mood of the gopis, which are his own beloveds. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described this. To understand this properly, you have to first understand all tattvas. Tattva means like a philosophical truth. Understand what is the nature of the soul, what is this world, what are the different elements, what is the different levels of the Godhead, what are the different spiritual abodes. This is very technical, very detailed. Gurudev said you should learn all of these things. After you learn it all, at a certain point, you should forget it. So first you have to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And afterwards you have to forget it and think Krishna is just my friend, or Krishna is just like my son, or Krishna is my beloved. These are our three main approaches. There's also the option to worship him in a passive mood like a sage and just meditate upon the supersoul within the heart and achieve that kind of blissful state. But in Vrindavan, there's not so much focus on that. One time there's a great sage, Durvasa, a great sage, generally very fearsome. He once was angry with his 2 wives, and so he burnt them to ash. That's Durvasa. He was famous for cursing people. So one time he came to Vrindavan and he was meditating near Govardhan, beautiful hill. And he was absorbed in trance. And Krishna came along with his friends, the calves, and they started wrestling near Durvasa, and they were playing a game with sticks and balls. Right? Where do you think all these games come from? Right? Especially boys. Right? Give them anything that looks like a ball shape, and they'll figure out a game with it. Right? So Krishna was fighting and playing, and then he said, they were arguing. What are the other things boys do? If you don't, that's why you need referees. I know growing up playing basketball with my friends and football, every minute or two, the game stops and you start to argue about who made a penalty over to who, and and if you don't resolve it, then you resolve it with your fists. Right? So Krishna began to argue with the boys. We won. No, we won. No, we got the point. No, you got the point. So then they noticed this sage sitting and meditating, and he was just 15, 20 feet away. He was sitting there with sages. That generally it's described in the Gita that you have half closed eyes. Okay, we can all try this together. Okay, you sit up straight. Everyone, if you're driving, don't do this. Or if you're cooking or something else. But if you're sitting and listening, you can sit in lotus position or in your chair, and you can put your thumb on your middle finger. Okay, you can breathe in. And you can have your eyes half open. Okay, again, if you're driving, please don't do this. Okay, you half open your eyes and you stare at the tip of your nose. And you meditate on the self. Okay, and you do this for 10,000 years, then you'll have self-realization. Okay? So you can get back to us in a few thousand years. This is one process. Our process in this age is more easy. We'll talk about this process at the end of the class. Okay? Half open eyes, that means sometimes you just close your eyes, then you'll fall asleep, or you get into dreamland, la la land. What did I have for breakfast yesterday? What did that person say? How should I respond to that comment? So you keep your eyes half open and you stare at the tip of your nose. Or you have a candle and you look at the candle. So the sage was there with half open eyes. They thought maybe he saw it. So they walked over to him and said, "Who won? Who got the point?" And he was silent in trance. He wouldn't respond. So Krishna and one other boy sat on each of his knees. They began to tug his big beard. He had a big white beard. This is the sage who was angry once with his wives, and he just cursed them and burnt to ash. There are many stories like that of him. Very scary sage. But this little beautiful bluish boy Krishna and his little friend Madhumangal were tugging his beard. Baba, Baba, who won? Baba, Baba, who won? And Durvasa opened his eyes a little bit more and saw Krishna, and he's a great sage, so he also understood. This is Paramatma, the super soul, appearing in this human form. But he could not conceive and understand of his nature like this. But it was so sweet. Why? Krishna was looking up at him and smiling and pulling his beard, and then he said, I don't know why you're silent. Maybe you haven't eaten in a long time. Maybe you're tired. Let's give him abhishek. And they brought pomegranate juice abhishek, coconut juice abhishek, mango juice abhishek, yogurt. They began to rub it in his beard. Tell us, who won, Baba? And he just began to cry and cry and cry. Heart melted. Why? This is not passive love. Active, dynamic. He's meditating on God, meditating on the Supreme, but it's dry. It's not so sweet. In Vrindavan, everything is sweet, madhurya. So our Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is described to be the seventh Goswami, he said that in the world, generally there's ideas of God that are very dry or impersonal or vague. And he said these different great religions and traditions are giving people an understanding of the Godhead in these different levels of understanding. Like God can be your father, it's a parental mood. God can be is like your friend in a kind of vague way. God is my friend. Or God is great and I am the servant. These moods are there. Or God is amazing, but I am just passive. I understand there's God, but God who doesn't need anything from me. Why? What does God need from us, really? So it's very passive. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur said soon, in the Western world, this flavor, this sweetness, this fragrance of madhurya. Madhurya means divine love and relationship with the absolute truth, Krishna. This will come to the West. He said this has not happened before. It's been many, many thousands of years since even the concept of this, what to speak of any vague concept of like a romantic love for God, an actual bona fide, authorized process of awakening your relationship with the Lord as a soul in love with God, that has not been shared. So that is what is being brought now by our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the combined incarnation of Radha Krishna and the teachers who've come in that lineage, like Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Un-GodHead Pandit. These are very powerful personalities. The incarnation of Shri Radharani, Lalita Devi, Rupa Manjari. And then descending in that path, all our teachers are Srila Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, his predecessor, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his Shiksha Guru, our Param Gurudev, our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and so forth. They have brought this to us. And so it is our service also to give an understanding and opportunity to enter this path. That is our service here. To share this message of divine love brought by Mahaprabhu with the world. This is very sweet. So I'll give you an example of madhurya. Madhurya means sweetness, of this kind of attraction towards Krishna. Madhurya rasa. This is the topic now. Madhurya rasa means the mellow of romantic love for Krishna, as is exemplified by the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan. They are the pinnacle of this mood of devotion. And ultimately, Srimati Radharani is the highest expression of this that we all surrender to. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. You should offer your mind to me. This is the best method to achieve liberation. In the Vedas, it said, Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya najatu chit. Should always remember God and never forget. All the other instructions are subordinate to this one. The maidservants, kinkara, all other injunctions are like the maidservants of this primary instruction. So what is the best way to remember something? Natural remembrance, right? If you have a relationship with someone, like our mother here, she naturally thinks of her children or her husband. So this is natural remembrance. So how can we develop this kind of natural love for Krishna? Then we will naturally remember him. There's a great devotee of the Lord who actually was cursed to become a demon. And this is a side note, but it's a far out story we'll tell in the future. It took 1 year for his neck to be cut off by the god Indra. His name was Britrasura. And the god Indra, the god of thunder, this demon was terrorizing the universe, but he had been a devotee before who was cursed to be like a demon. But he still had devotion. And so Indra defeated him with this powerful thunderbolt weapon that he crafted from the magical potency of the bones of a great sage who had been doing austerity for 100,000 years. And with this thunderbolt weapon, he was sawing off the demon's neck for a year. And during that time, the demon was offering prayers to the Lord. And he said, how can we develop love of God? He said, your love for God should be like a baby bird with eyes closed. It's not able to open its eyes. And it's just thinking of its mother. When will my mother come? When will my mother come? When will my mother come? But it's hungry, so it wants food. Then he says, like a calf, when the cow is out to the pasture and the calf's at home, baby calf, it's thinking, when will my mother come? When will my mother come? But it's thinking of the food. Then he said, as a lover is waiting for her beloved to come home, and he's away, and he's gone, and he thinks maybe something happened, he's 5 minutes late, he's 10 minutes late, when will my lover come home? She's thinking of it more in the mood of just love for the person, rather than needing something from the person. She's thinking in terms of her love, and she's concerned because of her love. So he said we should try to approach God in this way. This is the best means to develop attachment and remembrance, to develop this sense of love. That's why we see many people will have baby Krishna, Gopal, because they develop a mood of being like his mother or father. So they'll worship baby Krishna. Or others will worship Krishna with Radha as youths, because they want to enter into the service of Radha and Krishna themselves in that feature as their beloveds, as their associates or their friends. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava, offer your mind to me. Then he says, Mad bhakto, become a devotee. This is helpful. Madhyaji, offer some puja, arati, so forth. And if you can't do any of those things, then just offer some pranam, no problem. Mam namaskuru. But really, the best is just to offer your mind and heart. So that's why for this week here in Maui, we've been talking about how the kingdom of God is in the heart. That means that you don't have to go to church or to the temple to access that. Those things are favorable because they awaken remembrance wherever you are. So saintly association with devotees is very favorable. But ultimately, how can you meditate upon that as the place within your own heart? Radharani would say, Vrindavan is in my heart. My heart is Vrindavan. So how can we have that wherever we are, it is like we're in Vrindavan. That is what our teachers were like. Our Srila Gurudev, wherever he was, became like Vrindavan, right? Because he was always absorbed in the service of Vrindavan. Wherever he went became like Vrindavan. And where he left his foot dust, that place was always like Vrindavan. Like here, it's always a beautiful kunj, grove, where Radharani is present with her beloved Krishna. Why? Because his remnants, his prasad is here, his devotees are here. And so the place, everywhere the homes are, those homes become temples. Like here, we are surrounded by things that remind us of Krishna. So this is very auspicious. So manmana bhava. This is the primary instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam. Chintayanto mam. Think about me, one-pointedly. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Swami says, Anukulena Krishna anushilanam. Your thoughts and absorption in me should be like an unbroken stream of honey pouring, or a stream of oil pouring from an infinite container into an infinite reservoir of love. How can we develop that mood? This is instruction of our sastra. Body, mind, and words. So therefore, in this age, the primary means is through the mantra meditation. We have two forms of mantra meditation. One is spoken, and one is meditated upon. We perform both of those as bhakti yogis. Morning, midday, and evening, we chant mantras silently. Mantras that are a way of developing our connection with Krishna. In the morning, we'll chant the mantras, and we'll think, we chant different mantras. First, we receive the Harinam Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a very powerful mantra. We've spoken about it before, and we'll speak about it in the future episodes. We chant this out loud. There's three kinds of japa or chanting. One is loudly so that others can hear us. One is softly so that we can hear ourselves. And one is silently. Both of the three of these kinds we all chant, right? But then there's the Gayatri mantras. Next we chant the Gopala mantra. It's called, after we receive the Maha mantra, we receive Gopal mantra. This is a very powerful mantra that's been present in all the scriptures and has been chanted since time immemorial. This awakens our relationship with Krishna and his three features, Govinda, right? Krishna and Gopi Jana Vallabha, the beloved of the gopis. So we meditate upon that Krishna. This is a meditation. When we meditate like this, we invite Krishna, offer him a seat in our heart, right? We meditate on the soul as not the body. So we meditate on the spiritual nature of ourself, and we meditate it like in our hearts. We try to create a space like a beautiful forest grove with a beautiful flower throne, and we welcome Krishna there to sit. We offer him some water to wash his feet, dry his feet. All these types of offerings is a way to establish and thicken and deepen our relationship, right? That even though God doesn't need anything, he's offering us an opportunity to have a relationship with him, right? You can imagine, I'm drying Krishna's feet, right? And then I'm offering some drink. I'm giving him a flower. It's very beautiful, simple things. I'm giving him a bath and dressing him. This is very sweet. According to your mood, it's a very sweet kind of intimate relationship you can develop. So this is the activity of the sadhaka or the practitioner, that they meditate upon the temple of the heart and serve therein. This is our practice. If you do this for 10 minutes a day, this will make your life sublime. Enough. Start like that. 10 minutes a day. Our Guruji in India says, chant one round loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. 108 beats. Chant it nicely, loudly, with affection, and then do your mantras. And then gradually you'll have taste for this, and you'll want to do it more, and you'll want to do it more, and then no one can stop you. Then when you're driving, when you're walking, when you're resting, when you're eating, whenever you find some spare moments, you'll think like this. In the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu gives an instruction. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, very counterintuitive instruction. Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi or renunciant. He never touched a woman after he became sannyasi. He was very strictly, celibate monk. But the last 18 years of his life, he only talked about this divine love, and he only listened to songs about this divine love and chanted and was completely mad and intoxicated in this mood. So he gave 8 verses about how to realize this relationship, how to understand your soul, how to develop in spiritual life. We've talked about that a little bit before. We'll talk about it in the future. In the end, he gave an instruction that's very interesting. He said, we should perform our duties in this world like a lady who has a paramour. She does all her household duties very nicely, diligently, so that no one will suspect her. And when she has a little bit of time, she'll run off and meet her paramour. This is Mahaprabhu's instruction. So he said we should be like that. We do all our duties like a good wife in this world. Cook and clean and work or whatever it may be. But try to find some moment, some time where you can just think, remember God, your soul, Krishna, and develop your relationship. He said you should hide that also. Radharani says, try to hide your love so that it can mature and develop. Otherwise, the world will try to gobble you up. If you're strong enough to be like, there's a great saintly devotee named Mirabai, a great lady devotee, and she was so in love with Krishna, she would be talking with Krishna in her room. And she was married to this prince, and he would hear her talk and think, she's talking with some other man like she's in love with him. Who is this? And he would break into the room and say, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Krishna. I said, Krishna? Nonsense. They got so angry with her over some time that they tried to poison her. Finally, they just threw her out like she was useless garbage. Right? So generally, Mahaprabhu said, okay, that's a difficult life. Better you be a bit more secretive about your love. Do your duty, do your work, but try to develop your love for Krishna. So I'll tell one more story and then we'll finish for today. Krishna has Nam, his names, Rupa, his form, Guna, his qualities, and Leela, his pastimes. So when we chant the mantra out loud and when we meditate upon it, we gradually build relationship with his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Specific form has many forms, but you'll have a relation with a specific form. We see that in all our great gurus or Goswamis. They will have different forms of Krishna they have relationship with. Krishna manifests in infinite forms according to the love of his devotees. Right? So what is your relation with Krishna? What is your form of Krishna? For us as disciples of our Gurudev, we worship our Gurudev's form of Krishna. And at one point in our spiritual advancement, we may realize our own special relationship with Krishna. One time, about this time of day, Krishna was going out to the pasturing grounds with his cows. And there was one new gopi, young girl, and she wanted to see Krishna. She had come from another village. She had been married into that Vrindavan. And she wanted to see Krishna, but her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law said, no way, Jose. I don't know if they use those words exactly. Probably not. But that was the gist of the mood. Not going to happen. So he said, stay inside. They closed the shutters in the window why Krishna would go nearby their house in the pasturing ground, on the path. Hare Krishna. Just finishing up here. So they were thinking, why is he doing like this? She was thinking, why are my mother-in-law and sister-in-law doing like this? They closed the blinds, they shut the door, and they said, we have to go somewhere. And she said, where are you going? They didn't want to say. Where are you going? They said, oh, I'm going out to the path. Why? Well, Krishna's going by. So what, you're saying that you get to go, but I can't? This is not fair. Said, no, you're not qualified. Stay at home. Don't come out. So the mother-in-law, the sister-in-law, they went out, and Krishna was coming through the pathway with hundreds of thousands of his friends and all the calves and the cows, very happily running along. Everyone on the pathway was offering them some sweets or some flowers or some drink, and Krishna was playing his flute. The cowherd boys were blowing in their bugle horns, and you could hear the sound of their ankle bells. It was very beautiful, like a beautiful symphony of Krishna running into the forest with his friends. So this young girl, she was very disturbed. This is not fair. And so there was one door that they didn't properly lock, and she was able to open this. And she just stood in the porch, looking on the path. And as Krishna came running by, Krishna knew her heart, that she wanted to see him and develop some relation. So Krishna took the tail of a calf and twisted it and grabbed hold of it. And the calf dragged Krishna right up to the doorstep, right to the porch, right in front of this girl. She looked. And Krishna looked at her, pinched her cheek, gave her a crooked glance, and ran off. When her mother-in-law and sister-in-law came home, they saw her standing there like a statue. Like a statue. They said, hey, wake up, wake up. It was like nobody was home. So they brought her inside. They just kind of like moved her like a robot almost, or a mannequin. And she kind of moved inside, and they said, they thought, oh no, the black serpent Krishna has bitten her. That poison of the beauty of Krishna's face has entered her mind and heart. We must quickly do some mantras to bring her back. We must engage her in some duties to bring her consciousness back. So they said, okay, quick. Here's the churning rod. Go churn some yogurt. And they heard a loud grinding noise a few minutes later, and they saw that instead of churning the yogurt, she had this grinding rod and a big barrel of mustard seeds. She was churning the mustard seeds. Hey, cook this on the stove. But she just burnt everything. They said, here, take this. They thought, go fetch water from the well. They said, go fetch water from the well. They gave her a baby in one arm and a bucket in the other hand. They thought, we have to bring her back to her consciousness. So she went off, and she went to the village well where all the ladies were gathering water. And as if she was in a dream state, she began to tie the rope around the baby and lower it into the well and set the bucket down on the other side. And everyone began to scream, no, no, no. And they grabbed the rope and took care of the baby. So what has happened to her? Right? It said she has lost her heart and her mind to that Sham Sri Krishna. So it's said that once your heart has been lost and captured by that Krishna, it can never be returned. So that's why when we go to Vrindavan, most popular t-shirt is, I lost my heart in Vrindavan. I lost my heart in Vrindavan. So we're very lucky with my God brothers and God sisters. Many times we went to that beautiful land of Vrindavan. And our Gurudev would say, I've come to collect your hearts, to put them in my pocket, and to take them and offer them like flowers at the lotus feet of the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. So this is the glory of our Gurudev, that he himself was always immersed in this Braja Ras, the sweet love of Vrindavan. And he gave us an opportunity to enter into this land. It's not even an opportunity, it's like a destiny. A destiny. Why? When Gurudev came, he said, I have come to help all those followers of Srila Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada. I have come to help maintain their devotion, encourage them, re-inspire them, bring them back. I've come to help serve them, as was his instruction to me, his desire. But then he had some children. When he came to New Braj, I was hearing this a few times from our Gopanandini Mataji, who lives in our New York ashram, as our teacher there. And she said, Gurudev said, some of these kids, these are mine directly. Right? He said, these are my kids. Right? What does that mean? It's that he would come and he would see, we've heard this also on Gurudev's appearance and disappearance days. He would go and help everyone. This is what the Guru does. He goes and he gives love and mercy to everyone. Anyone who comes in contact, they develop so much in spiritual life. They get so much what's called sukriti or pious merits. Their spiritual bank balance just like goes through the roof. It's like hitting the jackpot. Meeting a pure devotee is like hitting the spiritual jackpot. So he's giving this mercy and love to everyone, but he's also looking, who are going to be those my friends in Vrindavan? Who are going to serve? Who are those people who are going to serve in Vrindavan? Serve Radharani as her associates. Serve Krishna. So he's looking for those special souls, right? Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the world, he went traveling and he looked for his associates. Where's Rupa? Where's Sanatan? Where's Rai Ramananda? Where's Sarvabhauma? So these are eternal associates. But Gurudev is looking, where are those jivas lost in this world of samsara, but who have that nature in them, that potency, potential in them, that they can be and serve with Sri Radha. Especially in my mood, Gurudev's mood. Where he said, in this mood that Gurudev had, of the service of Srimati Radharani to Krishna. In her footsteps, following in her footsteps as her servants. So Gurudev sought those people out. He said, I'm doing my Bhiksha collection. For who? I'm collecting these hearts. Why? To give them their full bliss and also to offer them to their supreme shelter. When you are united, then love means both sides are supremely joyful. So Krishna will be so joyful, Radharani will be so joyful. Oh, these jivas have finally come to their true shelter, their true home, their true where they're supposed to be. Like Swami Prabhupada would say, back home, back to Godhead. So we live out our life nicely. We have our families, we have our societies, we serve them, we do our duties. But at the same time, we try to follow this real process of bhakti yoga. That's why we say every day, give 10, 20 minutes seriously, chanting your mantras. And then developing some taste for chanting the Mahamantra, especially. The Mahamantra is just the names of Krishna and Radha. And so by chanting these names very nicely, sincerely, regularly, then gradually Krishna's form will begin to manifest to your vision. Krishna's qualities and Krishna's pastimes. So we've heard some pastimes of Krishna. Our Gurudev was especially very expert at describing the pastimes of Krishna. Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham. He was very expert at this. And this is the wealth of the heart of the sadhaka. If you can naturally remember Krishna by remembering all his sweet pastimes, then this absorption becomes very simple, automatic, easy way to progress in spiritual life. So whenever you have extra time, you can think. So we hear Harikatha to remind us of Krishna. And this is our process of spiritual advancement. Hearing Harikatha, spending time with devotees, taking Krishna's prasad, performing Krishna kirtan, chanting and serving. This is how we make rapid advancement on the path of spiritual life. Thank you for your time.